Welcome to A Day in the Life. Join us as we get an inside look into today's athletes, their sports, lifestyles, and entertainment.
Welcome back to A Day in the Life Unplugged. It's a podcast series that provides coaches and athletes with a platform to connect directly with their fans, get exclusive athlete-to-coach content, covering their mindset, life away from sports, motivation, and workouts. Join us for weekly segments, discussion, and more. I'm joined with special guests, Jesse Tovar and Hector Cano. They are with Prep One founder, and his partner, Hector Cano, coach, came on earlier in the segment. It's one of my favorite segments, working with so he's showing a couple of different hats that he's had on this podcast. So we'll go ahead and again thank you guys for showing up, and we already kind of talked about this off air, but so I wanted to wait until we did many follow-ups. It's kind of how is quarantine life treating y'all? Is in El Paso, are you still kind of quarantined? In San Antonio, things are slowly starting to loosen up. How are things going for both of you guys?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. It's been awesome. I've been looking forward to this. But as far as the quarantine life, I guess all the honeydews have been done. I fixed every cabinet, every door, every crack on the floor that had to be fixed, and I ran out of things to do now with this virtual learning thing. Being a high school teacher, just adapting, getting to know how the kids are adapting themselves, and everyone's situation is unique and is experiencing different things. Some people have lost family members because of this COVID thing. Others have been sick and recovered. So it's just the way of life has changed, and the way of sports has changed. So, and we continue keeping on and trying to do the best we can to adapt to the situation.
Yeah, I think that's, perfectly said. Although the one thing I will share with Mr. Tovar is the honeydew list is not done at my house, so he wants to come on over. I'd love to have him. I think it's keeping the reality of it is just keeping things in perspective, understanding that there is significant loss there is significant sacrifice being made by a lot of people. So understanding that, being grateful for that, but then and at the same time trying to push through things and trying to make the best of a situation, but always being aware of your surroundings. And as educators, as Mr. Tovar was saying, as Jesse was saying, is making sure that we're projecting that message of positivity, regardless of what's going on right now with our students and our student athletes. But also having the courage to tell them that, hey, we don't have all the answers, that we don't know everything, that we're not 100% certain when things are going to return back to normal. So yeah. But overall, been grateful from the standpoint. There's always blessings in disguise in a lot of this, and for me, a lot of it has been being able to spend a really great amount of time with my family and with my girls. So yeah, like I said before, when I was on before, they are definitely about sick of me and definitely want me to go back to work. So.
But tell us a little bit about the recruiting service, guys. If those people who haven't heard about it a whole lot, what are you guys about? What are things that you guys pride yourselves on? What's kind of the mission statement for you guys?
Well, as far as Prep One, my daughter is a collegiate soccer player. She's a Division I soccer player over at Southern. And prior to me teaching, I've been teaching for 3 years now. I was a deputy sheriff for 21 years. I was a cop, and I was patrolling the streets of my community, and missed the people I used to work with. But I was ready to go. I was ready to do something different, help kids a certain way. But during my daughter's high school soccer campaign, if you will, I started getting a lot of traction. I started seeing what I talked to the NCSAs. I talked to all those recruiting sites out there, and what I was coming across is that I registered my daughter for every site, I created a profile for her and everywhere I could. Especially I couldn't afford them all, so I got as much. I researched them all and got all the little bits and pieces that I liked from each one, and I adapted that certain presentation for my daughter. I didn't know anything about recruiting. I didn't know anything. I just knew that what I was doing for her, marketing her effectively, was working, because we were getting a lot of feedback, a lot of traction from not only media, Twitter following, and we'll get into Twitter in a second. But just what I was doing with her and the way I was marketing her was working very, very effectively. And when I started getting contacted by random parents from people that I didn't even know, and right now through the Facebook world, we're all connected in some way. People were finding me on Facebook and messaging me and asking me, can you help me with my softball player? Can you help me with my soccer players? Can you help me with my basketball players? Sports that I had nothing to know. I mean, I'm a fan, much less don't know any of the dynamics pertaining to recruiting for those sports. But what I was doing with my daughter, I was noticing that other people were noticing, and they were just trying to seek me out for advice or pick my brain, anything that I could help them with to help them with their athlete. So at that point, I planted the seed. I had a little bit as far as this is where I'm going to go. This is how I could help kids and families enhance their online presence to be discovered by collegiate coaches to play at the next level. And what I learned is it doesn't matter what sport, the philosophy is pretty much the same across the board. Yes, there's different strategies, but at the same time, the delivery and the emails and establishing the dialogue and the tough questions and learning the parameters as far as the qualifications for different types of colleges and the monies and the testing and all that, it pretty much mirrors all across the board. So I was able to assist several families. With that said, I remember, and I'm not trying to get eerie on you guys or anything, but I remember towards the tail end of my career, I'm sitting on my patrol car and I'm like, I got to do this. I just don't have any idea how to start. I'm not a business guy. I've been a cop for 20 years. I don't even know how to even begin this thing. So I made one phone call, and from that one phone call with a friend that just had a marketing company, and I just told him, hey man, I have this crazy idea of how I could maybe start helping kids get recruited, and I sat down with him for about 45 minutes, and he told me, look, I'm not asking you for any money, and I'm not telling you this because I'm your friend, but you're onto something here, and I could see the passion in how you're talking about it, and it seems like you have the secret sauce and the know-how of how to get this thing done. So before you knew it, I had a logo done, and it started with here in Texas high school football is king. So I started with, and I tell a story all the time. It was myself and an iPhone 7, and all I started with doing was score updates, taking pictures of an in-progress game, tagging media, and before you know it, I had an army, working with me. I had photographers, videographers. They just wanted to be part of the process. They'd seek me out, wanting to know what Prep One was all about, and I would tell them, like, guys, you have no idea how marketing an athlete can effectively and teaching them how to market themselves can really, really enhance their opportunities to get scholarships out there, because there's a lot of money out there and there's a lot of scholarship opportunities that a lot of families don't know about. They don't know the process. They don't understand the process. A lot of these athletes come with single parent homes. Their mom, dad are always working, so they don't have the time. And a lot of these coaches, they're overwhelmed. I mean, a lot of these coaches are athletic directors as well, so they have multiple athletes from different sports to worry about. So what I wanted to do was take it off the head coaches and work with the head coaches, but have the athlete and the families start marketing themselves so they could create their own opportunity. And that's how I came to establish Prep One.
Coach Cano, how did you start to associate yourself, or how did you start to fit into this picture as well?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. I know probably Jesse can elaborate a little bit more on it, but I know for me the interesting piece, how we actually met was through interacting through Twitter. Ironically, because we started coming across. I think Jesse was about a year into his organization with Prep One, and I was actually in San Antonio there at St. Mary's Hall School. I know you're familiar with, and I was doing the same. I was kind of doing the same thing there at St. Mary's Hall, as not only as a director of soccer, but as assistant AD. My role was essentially, one of my roles was what they essentially formed out to me as a SID, Sports Information Director, and a lot of it was doing just that, is being able to market our student athletes there at St. Mary's Hall. Market our athletes there, to get them out in front of college coaches, get their information out, get them out to ID camps, essentially that is getting them discovered. So from there, I kind of came across Jesse and I forget the story exactly how we started talking, but I think it was a lot of recognizing each other's work to a certain extent, and my interaction, obviously, specifically in the game of soccer. From there, I had mentioned to him that I was looking. I'm originally from El Paso. I had mentioned to him that I was looking at the possibility of moving back to El Paso. So as luck would have it, sure enough, obviously we moved back, and about a month or so, 6 weeks or so before we moved back to El Paso, an opportunity came up. The head varsity women's soccer position opened up at Isleta High School, which just so happened to be the school where Jesse's also a law enforcement teacher there. So things kind of connected from there, and he had, I had kind of a good dialogue going with him for a while, and we started to realize that a lot of our vision in terms of when it comes to student athletes, and essentially my philosophy is I keep it really simple. I keep it to what is an elevator speech, right? And it's really simple. It's essentially helping student athletes, helping educate not just them, but parents on just the one-on-ones, the do's and don'ts of the college recruiting process, and essentially letting them be discovered and go chase their dreams, the ones that really want them. And I think that's what we're about, and that's definitely my philosophy, is it's not for everybody. Playing at the next level and the college recruiting process, it's not for everybody, and that's okay. Because oftentimes what you come across is you'll have a lot of student athletes, they like the idea of playing at the next level. They like the idea of saying, hey, the college recruiting process, I want to get into it. And then once they kind of see the grind that it is, the day in and day out, and the consistency, which, excuse me, is, in life, just being consistent is one of the hardest things there is. When you're a teenager, when you're asking that of a, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old, it's tough, right? It's tough. So our job is to educate, my philosophy, and part of the role that Jesse's brought me in to do, and I know he can elaborate on it a little bit more, is the emphasis, the sophistication of the recruiting process as it pertains to to the soccer game, the college soccer game. And part of that is also him kind of having the vision and being able to utilize my background as a college coach, as a D1 college coach when I was at the Air Force Academy, and as well as at the JUCO level at the prep school there at the Air Force Academy. So that's kind of how we kind of came to be. We ended up at the same, we started talking, ended up at the same place, and it's been a really great friendship first and foremost, as well as a good working relationship. And I believe in surrounding myself with people that are better than me, that are smarter than me, or that are essentially like-minded. And I think Jesse kind of matches all three of those categories. So you always want to surround yourself with the right people, the good people. And for me, it was a no-brainer.
I think as kids have such a misconception on what level they are. And, every kid thinks if I was a decent player, I deserve a full ride. And it's hard for them to comprehend how special you have to be, how much work is put into getting that, and how when you talk about junior college, preps, how many kids that you're competing with. So I thought that's an amazing thing that you have a guy that's coached at that level who can give a pretty accurate gauge. And I can see that that's one thing that you guys can differentiate yourself. I was going to ask, what are some of the other things that you guys, are proud of that make you guys a little different than the next team?
Well, you know what, we pretty much, we're very transparent with the athlete and the parents. We tell the athlete and the parents right away, if you're not committed to the process, there's no way I could be more committed than you. I can't want it more than you. Your parents can't want it more than the athlete. We tell the athletes, you have to be committed to the process, because it's not just a one-button touch, everything's going to happen for you. Everybody wants to go Division I. Everybody wants to go Power 5, watch themselves on TV, and whether it's guys and girls, okay, especially out here in West Texas, we're adjacent to Mexico. We have a lot of our student population here with talented athletes that come from Mexico, and they that's all they do is they play soccer out there. Not all the athletes, but a large majority. And what we do tell them is we try to help them and have them learn that just because everyone's been telling them how great they are all their life, and they can score 20, 30 goals during their high school season, and they can't score one goal during club. That's where it's going to differentiate as far as what level of play that you're at. You need to put yourself out there. You need to be evaluated by the right coaches. And as you all know, with recruiting, a lot of it is chance, and a lot of it is being seen at the right place at the right time, and seeing what the right fit is for you pertaining to college. We stress this to families all the time. And we tell them straight up. There's a lot of Division II, Division III facilities that are better than some Division I, and there's a lot of money in Division II, Division III that could benefit you as a family and not hurt your pocketbook, as if you're just going to go to the Division I school and sit on the bench for 2-3 years. I'll never discourage a student athlete from going Division I and having dreams and aspirations of going Division I, but I tell them maybe the JUCO route is your route to get to Division I, and you have to make them or help them understand that there's a lot of coaches that coach at the Division II, III, NAIA level that at one point coach Division I or have contacts in Division I to help you get there. But you could, if they're not committed to the training, because a lot of it's not just what they learn at practice. Yeah, I attend practice all the time, and I know I never miss any games. You're gonna have to do those extra little things, following the right diet, keeping your grades up, training, specialty training on the side wherever you can, and understanding that not everybody can afford those types of situations. But it all depends as far as a lot of athletes. There's a lot of raw talent out here, and there's a lot of athletes that have tremendous abilities to play Division I at the Division I level, but they could very well be playing Division II, Division III. I tell the athletes all the time, would you rather stand out playing Division II or III, or not play during Division I? Because chances are, and a lot of time is timing. A lot of these athletes start their recruiting campaigns going into their senior year, and you try to kind of gauge them. You don't want to overwhelm them with doing too much their freshman year, but their freshman year going into their sophomore year, those are the money years, because that's when you're laying down the groundwork and the foundation of that puts you out in a total advantage come your junior senior year of high school. But if you're going to be doing anything until your senior year, then you're already behind. You're already behind. The clock's almost going to strike midnight. It's the 11th hour. So you're in desperation mode with a sense of urgency that there's nothing that it might not happen for you. And there's a lot of athletes that we see the bubble burst, and they're good athletes, but they just didn't put the time or the effort to help themselves get recruited, because we can't do it all for them.
Yeah, and I think it's well said. I think the other piece too is, and I've had a lot of these conversations with Jesse, is that in my case, and I think in speaking for Prep One as well, is like we're open to everyone, but we're not going to just work and help anyone. I think the big piece is that having not just as a coach myself, but also with my background as a military member, being retired and having spent time as an instructor as well at the Air Force Academy, the emphasis that we place on character and leadership, the character being, and I know we'll transition into this in a minute, but what does their social media look like? Whether, and not just limited to just Twitter, obviously, but Instagram and everything else. And I know I'm still amazed how many teenagers I come across, even kids in college, that they think, Snapchat or whatever, that, hey, once they delete something, that it's gone. Or, hey, I put something up and then after 24 hours or a set time, it's gone. And educating them on that and what does their social media look like? Because a lot of them, it says a lot in terms of as an organization and what we're trying to do. If a student athlete's social media, it doesn't reflect a single thing regarding character, leadership, the sport they play, or worse yet, just a lot of just inappropriate material. And I think that emphasis on the character and the leadership side, not just on the field or on the court, but off of it as well, it's a big part of what we bring.
Well said for both of you guys. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll discuss the upcoming fall season and winter season, as well as what changes we can expect.
Sun City Academy. Sun City Academy. Sun City Academy. Sun City Academy. Find your future at Sun City Academy.
With practices starting for most high schools, what changes can we expect for team practice and game procedures?
Here in West Texas, right now, they're having a lot of surveys. They're trying to kind of gauge as far as what are going to be the mandates. Last I heard last week, because it changes every week. It's like every 3 days it changes. They were going to give 2 tickets per participant, which means every player, every trainer, if there's a dance team or cheer team performing, they were going to allow them, give them 2 tickets for them to give out to whoever they wanted to attend. However, now we're hearing they're gonna probably go 25% capacity, and at what point do you cut it off? Because I just don't know. We just don't know until we get there. But there is going to be football played for the most part. The majority, I think 99% of games scheduled in East Texas so far have been played. There have been a few cancellations, but that they don't even make the 1%. But there has been situations where there's been game stoppages because administrators do tell people to go ahead and separate a little bit more. The kids started, kids will be kids. They started to congregate. They started getting all a little bit rowdy. So there's been game stoppages where they just make a PA announcement letting them know, wear your mask, go and separate a little bit more, and let's not hurt ourselves here and proceed with the game. But as far as that, there's anything that is structured, I think like we just said a while ago, I think they're just playing it by ear and see what works and try not to shoot ourselves in the foot once we're there.
Yeah, I think the other big selling point is streaming too, right? Which we're seeing a lot with a lot of the 4As, the 1As through 4As right now. And volleyball in the fall is in a different category too because it's indoor, So I think that's where basketball is also watching that closely. But yeah, the intent, my understanding is the intent is for every school to stream every varsity event.
And then to kind of bring it back to the Prep 1, is how has the college recruiting process changed through all this for you guys? And what is Prep 1's vision for high school recruiting and marketing in the Paso region based on that?
The thing is the buy-in. It's got to be the buy-in from the players and the families. And as soon as they understand the dynamics, especially with this COVID situation, the recruiting game has changed. The recruiting game has changed the last 4 or 5 months. Before, coaches, now with this virtual world, they're evaluating film and they're evaluating huddle film or any type of film, YouTube film. So they're starting to discover players with with the platform that we already had envisioned, and that's technology. So we stress to all the kids, you have to have a Twitter account. Some kids rather have a TikTok or a Snapchat account than they do their Twitter account, and they want to play at the next level. And I tell them we can't do that. We need to have that same effort in Twitter that you put in your Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. That same time and attention to detail, you got to put all that stuff in your Twitter. But we're talking about your training videos and stuff like that. Help yourself. You're pretty much selling yourself. But the game has changed. I see it all the time. There's coaches all the time on Twitter posting, drop your huddle film here. I got nothing but 10. I got a 4-hour layover at LAX. Drop your huddle film. I'm going to be watching everybody. I'm going to be responding to players' DMs, stuff like that. So those are key opportunities for players to put themselves out there. And if they already have an established Twitter timeline, that'll be even more enticing for coaches to take an interest in them. If they're just starting their Twitter that day because they saw that coach's post, there's nothing for them to show. So I tell players, establish your Twitter early, your 8th grade, freshman, sophomore year, and it's not that coaches need to know about you then, but by the time they come across your Twitter has been so established, populated with game information, your attributes, your growth in your game, your skill set, your training. They want to see your character in those tweets. And of course, we help them at Prep 1. We always tell athletes, you got to stay appropriate. You got to keep yourself appropriate. We've come with a lot of athletes that want us to promote them, and we see their timelines and it's trash. So we don't even touch their accounts. We tell them straight up, clean it up, and because we're not going to be promoting you. But yes, the recruiting game has changed significantly since this COVID hit, and it's actually been a lot easier Gone are the days where coaches are going to be flying into a city to evaluate one player or just to recruit one player. Does it still happen? Absolutely, especially in the football realm. But for the most part, everything's going to be with technology and correlation with the club coaches, correlation with the high school coaches, letting them know a little bit as far as what the characteristics of the athlete is and what the situation is at home. Some athletes have tremendous talent, but they have brothers and sisters that they need to take care of. So those are going to be deciding factors of them. Even they know they can play at the next level, but they're going to want to stay home, opt to stay home and help the families out. So everybody's situation is different. So we try to facilitate and letting them know, hey, look, there is an opportunity for you to get your college education while doing what you love, and this will definitely pay off in the long run and help your family while you get your college paid for. So a lot of these, they see the light, and we try to help facilitate them, but every situation is different. But yes, the recruiting game has changed significantly with this COVID situation.
Yeah, another interesting piece that we've seen too in regards to the recruiting game has been the level of all of a sudden these campus facilities and program virtual tours. Those have been major. I know in probably I think about a dozen or so of the current athletes that I'm consulting with, I think we've had about 7 or 8 of them that have already attended at least one virtual tour, at least one. And then we have a couple more that are going to be on some in the coming weeks, probably, I believe first week of October. And then a couple of them are now, some schools are taking some actual regular tours again, admissions, working with coaches. So kudos to college coaches because they've adjusted, even locally here, the local program here, UTEP, they had a junior day a while back. They hosted a bunch of schools in the region, not just here in El Paso, and it was a good product. It was well put together. And then the other thing that a lot of what we're seeing now is the coaches are introducing their existing players, their existing roster to some of these recruits through these virtual tours, and that pays big because that leads to a spin-off of friendships that are built. And it's like, hey, I know the coach is going to say this, but give me the lowdown. What's this program really like? What's it really like to go to school here? And that's educating our student athletes that we're working with on that process to take full advantage of it, because it's tremendous. I think it's been one of the best things that have come out of this in regards to the recruiting, the college recruiting process. So yeah, it's been awesome. I think that's been one of the big things. I know a couple of my athletes at my school where I coach, some of my own, 3 of them are going to be for the same program, for one program. 3 of them are going to be on a virtual tour and a meet the team video call in about 2 weeks. So them taking full advantage of that as well, and buying into that, as Jesse was saying, is big time. So yeah, I think you can't really stress that enough as to how much the process is changing.
Don't forget to like and follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels, your favorite athletes, their teams, and more. A day in the life. We got you covered. Until next time, stay safe and be well. Peace.